Now, when you lived in Arlington, when you first moved down there, what did your father do?
Well, my father, really, they did more or less farming. They had cows, and then Fred bought that milk route of George Wiswell's that went skim milk and cream route, and he used to go twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, to Brewer, and he peddled milk, skim milk and cream. He had customers all along the way, and then they used to cut the wood out in the pasture, and they had blueberries in the pasture. One side of there was a road that went through the pasture out across the railroad track, because we had a pasture on the other side of the railroad track. Sometimes we kept the cows in the home pasture, and sometimes we took them out and pastured them in the one across the railroad track. But that road where they walked out to the railroad track, they would, one year, they'd burn it on one side of the road, and the next year we'd have blueberries to beat 9 of a kind, and the next year they'd burn it on the other side of the road. So we always had blueberries.
Yeah.
And I used to pick a lot of blueberries and used to take them. Later on, as I grew older and got to be a teenager, summertime I went with Fred on the milk cart.
Yeah.
And I used to pick blueberries, and he used to let me sell all the blueberries that I picked. And I used to sell them for 25 cents a quart.
Oh.
And at that time, he raised a lot of peas, and I helped pick peas, and he'd sell the peas for 75 cents a peck.
Now there's like $7,
Yeah.
$7, $8
Yeah.
a peck.
But
Tell them what happened now. What happened in the wintertime now if it snowed? How would you get around, or what? How would they clear the roads?
well, the year that I had the flu, in 1919, I remember watching them come up with an old wooden snowplow. It just was, all it was a V in front, and it was made of wood, and about 6 or 8 pairs of horses ahead of it, and 8 or 10 men would ride on that snowplow to hold it down, and they'd have to go ahead of the horses, those men would, and shovel so to
Let the
horses get through, and then they'd go back and sit on the snowplow, and the horses would drag that snowplow through, because there was no cars going those days. All there was horse and wagons.
And this probably would be just the main road that they do this
That's all.
to. Yeah.
I don't know whether they ever did it to any other road or not, but that was we had a terrible amount of snow that year. I don't know other years, perhaps when there wasn't as much snow, perhaps they didn't have to use as many horses and so forth too. But I don't remember about that. I just remember that one year, how awful it was.